I can't believe that just happened. Definitely had to get the Ferrari shirt on for this one. The ink on Hamilton's new Mercedes contract has only just dried, and we've just been given the biggest driver move probably ever. After appearing to be committing the remainder of his F1 career to Mercedes, it turns out that Hamilton has signed for Ferrari and will partner Charles Leclerc for the 2025 season onwards. And this has all happened after triggering a clause in his contract which has now allowed him to make the move, which we all thought was impossible, but here we are. For how long, we're not sure, but we've been told that it's a multi-year contract, and it's kind of a similar way in what Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc have done recently, where they're not giving away the amount of time of how long the contract is for. Nobody wants to show their hand yet, and it's all quite tactical. Now, from this whole thing, two things are immediately clear. One is that there's still fight in Lewis Hamilton, and he is just not happy to roll off into the sunset at Mercedes, finishing third if he's lucky. And number two, it explains why the contract discussions with Carlos Sainz suddenly fell apart. And I know I said there was two things, but one more thing as well. It shows that things might not all be good with the Mercedes car for 2024. But something that is guaranteed with Ferrari is that the company car at Ferrari is going to be significantly better to what they can offer at Mercedes. Now, throughout Lewis's career, a potential move to Maranello has always been a big what if that has always been stamped out by contract extensions throughout his time at Mercedes. Most recently in 2023, he signed a 2-year contract extension which was supposed to be putting him at Mercedes for life, kind of knocking any chat of a future Ferrari drive completely on the head, until one fateful day. So now it turns out his 2-year contract at Mercedes was actually just a 1 year with a 1-year option. And it does make you think, because George Russell's contract was renewed at the same time for the same length of time. So is his one a genuine 2-year, or is his in fact a 1 year with a 1-year option? We're just gonna have to wait and see. But something I'm genuinely amazed at is how this deal was done even before he's turned a wheel in anger in the Mercedes W15. It's actually amazing when you look at the photos of him doing the seat fitting in the W15, considering what he knew then that others didn't, and knowing that he was about to drop this whole bombshell on the team. Whether this move turns out to be a success or a complete failure or just a meh, we are witnessing F1 history in the making. But the big question does remain is why now? Because we all thought that he had this sweet deal at Mercedes where he kind of just had the run of the place and would just run out his career there and act as some sort of brand ambassador kind of until he wanted. And that could very well have been part of the problem. He probably saw his life laid out in front of him. It was very predictable and he might not have liked what he saw. And he's always been very proud of his time at Mercedes. He's always said that Mercedes has been part of his life since he was 13, just conveniently pushing McLaren out of the way there. But to drive for Ferrari is one of his childhood dreams, and many drivers out there have said that there was an opportunity to drive Ferrari at the time, but they didn't take it up. Most notably, Jenson Button said this, that he had an opportunity to go there for a year, didn't do it, and he's regretted it ever since. Now, first things first, a move to Ferrari at this stage of Hamilton's career, looking at this from the cold, hard logic light of day, might be quite difficult to understand. Because on the face of it, he's moving to a team that Mercedes beat in 2023, only just because Ferrari were kind of getting their act together towards the end of the season, but he's moving to a team which might not be on the same level as Mercedes right now. Lewis is going from Mercedes, where he has the run of the place, to Ferrari, where everything is built and catered towards whatever Charles Leclerc needs. And also in terms of competence, despite their recent faults, Mercedes are light years ahead of Ferrari. Even though Ferrari are getting better and getting their act together, we still do kind of see these faults and mishaps and bad strategic calls from Ferrari from time to time. But you never know, from the start of this season, Ferrari might have ironed out all the creases in terms of its strategies, pit stops, all that sort of thing. And with this now also being Fred Vasseur's second full season in charge at Ferrari, he's now brought in a new way of doing things, a new outlook on the team, and a new just vibe and direction towards success, and just kind of removed everything from the chaos of Ferrari under Mattia Binotto. Okay, Binotto may not have been calling all the shots, but it was his job to make it work, and he kind of didn't. But Vasseur seems to be doing all the right things so far and turning Ferrari around into the right direction. History will tell you French team principles at Ferrari do work very, very well. Now, the other thing is when you look at the move from a purely emotional standpoint, all from the heart, all that sort of thing. A move to Ferrari for Hamilton completely makes sense, and I totally understand why he's made this move. Unlike driving for any other team, a drive at Ferrari, particularly if you're doing well, almost grants you immortality. You are revered throughout the world, and particularly in Italy, just because you have driven one of those red cars. And the thing is, no matter how successful Red Bull is, or Mercedes, or anyone, no one can touch the sort of prestige and atmosphere around Ferrari. And the Tifosi, I'm sure, will welcome Hamilton with open arms and really see him as the guy to deliver their first Drivers' Championship since Kimi Räikkönen in 2007. And something which Hamilton hasn't yet experienced, but I think he'll love when he gets there, is that when you drive for Ferrari, you aren't just driving for a team, you're driving for an entire country, an entire culture, and you've got this whole weight of people who are just naturally behind you. And actually, some fairly average drivers and drivers who didn't have that much success now have amazing careers post Formula One and post motorsport simply because they have driven for Ferrari. So for a 7-time world champion to move to Maranello, this is Ferrari's biggest signing since they got Vettel in. Now, the thing is, right now, Hamilton is statistically the best Formula One driver of all time. The stats are there, the numbers are there. It's hard to argue that otherwise. But where people get into arguments is where the term the best moves into who's the greatest, and that's kind of where the battle seemed to be had. Because I think best and greatest are two very different things. My opinion is that Hamilton is statistically the best, but he is not the greatest. Shoot me down if you like, let me know in the comments. But however, a move to Ferrari will really give him that chance to cement himself as the greatest of all time, especially if he delivers another Drivers' Championship for Ferrari. But I have a feeling that another factor that drove this move is one of business and branding as well. Ferrari had better order extra stock of Hamilton caps and t-shirts because the 2025 Silverstone Grand Prix is going to be just a sea of red. The bizarre sight of British Tifosi at Silverstone. And by the way, Hamilton will be the first English Ferrari driver since Nigel Mansell, so that is just such a great way to tap in to the UK F1 market. Hamilton brings fame, identity, and this all translates into revenue for Ferrari. And this leaves Mercedes, who could find out a few home truths about their fan base and their identity. I don't know about you guys on this, let me know in the comments, but I think Toto Wolff's recent behaviour, antics, and everything since 2021 hasn't done Hamilton's brand any favours, or brand Russell, or even brand Mercedes actually. He's made the team quite difficult to like, to be honest. With Hamilton gone for 2025, Mercedes might learn how many actual fans that they have. And despite all the big words and statements that Mercedes have put out there, they are really struggling to return to form, let alone a dominant form, but just getting regular podiums or even wins. And for some people, Mercedes kind of have this image of being washed with no real kind of breakthrough in sight. So a move to Ferrari, I think, would reinvigorate Hamilton, and it would really give him that spark again and really push him forward to kind of explore and try new things that he might not have been able to at Mercedes. And the fact that he'll be working once again with Fred Vasseur, who we once worked with in GP2 and also in times before that, it might allow Hamilton to kind of return to his roots a little bit, because it seems whatever Toto Wolff has been trying just hasn't been working, because something somewhere has gone very, very wrong at Mercedes in the last few years, as we've seen multiple key figures leaving the team. Also, continuous switching of design philosophies on the car, and just a general vibe of panic mode. I'll be up front, I think it all started to go wrong for Mercedes when Niki Lauda died. He was the one guy at Mercedes who everyone, including Toto and Lewis, would listen to, and he would tell them exactly what he thought and not sugarcoat anything either. They've lost him, and I think Mercedes have been on a downhill trajectory ever since and have just been unable to replace whatever it was Lauda was bringing to the team. I think the signs do point towards that Hamilton has done simulator work and everything on the W15, and he's seen the data and he's seen the numbers and all this sort of stuff, and it's clear that the car isn't where it needs to be. And once he signed his contract in 2023, he was probably promised a return to form, maybe back to 2020 form and challenging for wins and championships and all this sort of thing. It's not going to happen now, and he's probably thought, well, screw this, I've given the team enough time to sort things out and it's just not happening. And he's probably thinking, another promise broken. And also, he knows that he has a sell-by date as an F1 driver. There's only a certain amount of time left for him to realistically deliver this 8th World Championship that he's been after. And he's given them time to sort themselves out and get their act together, but it just looks like Mercedes aren't the team that's going to help him deliver this championship. I mean, Hamilton will be 40 by the time he turns the wheel at Ferrari, and given he's got this multi-year contract, which I'm guessing might be somewhere like 2 or 3 years, yeah, time is of the essence. A huge deciding factor for Hamilton's decision to move to Ferrari has got to be the prospect and mission of turning this team around and the prospect of being a legendary Ferrari driver. And also the freshness of a new environment, new people, new everything basically. And also having Charles Leclerc next to it, one of F1's hottest young drivers, is going to be very interesting to see. And also how he kind of reacts to that, because Hamilton doesn't like being pressured or, challenged by the driver next to him. I expect that he's going to find that Maranello is worlds apart from Brackley. But fortunately, he is finding Ferrari in a period of transition, and this is just the right time for him to join, as the team are not kind of stuck in their ways as much as they were and are considering perhaps other ways of doing things. Now, it might be a shock to the system when he joins the team and finds out that things are done in a certain way simply because we are Ferrari. And also he can give a bit of insight into how things were done at Mercedes, but he also has to be careful not to be jarred and wound up if he's told that we simply don't do things like that here. I think Hamilton will find a Ferrari in a similar position to how Schumacher did when he first got into a car for them in the winter of 1995. A Ferrari which has set itself a new goal, new aspirations, new way of doing things, all with the aim of just long-term success, and signing Hamilton is a huge statement of intent for this. Now, I'm really happy that Hamilton's actually made this move. I think it's fantastic for his career, it's fantastic for F1, and it will really give him a kind of shot in the arm that he just wasn't getting at Mercedes. But also, he has to be aware that Ferrari have signed world champions in the past and burnt them out on a pretty regular basis as well. Examples such as Prost, Kimi Raikkonen to a degree, Fernando Alonso, and Sebastian Vettel, of course. I really hope he does find the success with Ferrari and it doesn't go the same way as those other guys I just mentioned, because that would be a real shame and a sad way to end a career. I touched on this earlier, but I think a great reason for this move happening is that for him just to add that Ferrari name to his CV and just the record of his time in F1. To drive and win at teams such as McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari would be just phenomenal. And also it's a chance for an enormous segment of F1 fans to finally get behind Hamilton, because otherwise he's been driving against their beloved Ferrari, so naturally they've kind of disliked him. So now he's driving for the team they support and they can see what all the fuss is about. If he even does a slight thing like winning the Italian Grand Prix, straight away he has millions of new supporters, and Ferrari tons and tons of new merchandise shipped. This is honestly what F1 needed, a big shake-up in the driver market and just a big shake-up of everything we expected. And with the knock-on effects and ripples this is going to have throughout the season will be huge. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.